Hi, my friends. Hello. Welcome to the Salt Circle. Thank you for joining us again on this Wednesday where we discuss, death, dying, and bereavement. Um, so if you're new here, my name is Daniela. I'm your host here at the Salt Circle. This is a non-judgmental space where we can be as authentic as we can be in our healing journey, in our grieving journey, or just in our own personal development, especially in the lenses of, codependency recovery and, you know, bereavement. If you are returning, welcome. Hello, my friends. Um, yeah, let's just get right on into it. This is our 12th episode, where we discuss, grief and what that's like and how complicated that is. And then when you throw things like generational dysfunction, being no contact, it gets even more complicated. And death is already something that is pretty taboo, unless it's, part of a joke or a horror movie. We don't actually talk about death in the Western world, we don't really plan for it. We don't have open dialogue about final wishes or what it means to, love someone as they navigate their own mortality. So I really would love to see that changed. Excuse me, I'm gassy. I don't know. So that's kind of what I wanted to discuss this episode. Um, and it stems from, all of the things that I talk about come from my own personal experiences. So if you think I'm talking out of my ass, please feel free to call me out. You know what I'm saying? All right. So my handwriting is atrocious. So this may take me a second to decode. So yeah, there is a lot of shame around death, around I'm swiveling, around dying, whether it's someone we know and it's just something that we're going to gossip about and speculate about or judge the people who are left surviving on after their identity has changed. Now they're a widower, now they don't have a parent, whatever that change in identity is. It's something we will look on from an outside perspective and not want to touch, right? There's um almost like the populace feels like if we don't talk about it, if we don't go near it, then it won't happen to us. Kind of almost like an out of sight, out of mind mentality. And so we keep it a secret. If someone we love is dying, if they received, a terminal illness diagnosis, or if their chronic illness is now at a stage where it has progressed to no longer really being manageable. A lot of times, from what I've noticed, people are they seem ashamed of it. They don't want to talk about it. Bereavement leave at jobs is, you know, people don't want to ask about, well, can I take that? What happens if you do have to take care of a relative? People don't like saying that they are or that they need help. So it really isolates them, and it makes this really profound experience dying something that we're all going to experience. It makes it even more daunting to take on because you're doing it for the first time, probably you're doing it alone, and you feel like you can't share what you're going through. Your employer's not going to care. You still have to show up for work. So why am I going to complain about it? Maybe there is a feeling of you want to protect your family member's image. You don't want people to know them as someone who's sick and shitting themselves, someone who had, horrible alcoholism and their liver's failing and they're all, distended and discolored. And, you don't want people to know you're a parent like that, or whatever the case may be. There's lots of different variables that can go into someone's end of life, right? And I think in the multitudes and the complexity, we just don't want to talk about it. Maybe you should share with me what you think about that. Um, do. All right, those are just my first round of thoughts. There's more, but I won't go into them. So this deep-seated uncomfortableness with our mortality, there is also fear of the unknown, fear of the uncertainty, fear of losing a loved one, of being, without them, the fear of vulnerability. There's so many things we can fear, well, what if you're unable to take care of yourself? And if, the other person dies, then what happens to you? That's not a selfish thought. It's a very real thought. Um, oh wow, what did I even write? Pellison? Sugars. Oh, I think maybe also because in America, the prominent religion for the most part is Christianity or some kind of Judo Christian offshoot of a religion. So in a lot of those religions, there is, you have to live a certain way or you're going to hell, you're going to be tortured forever. And I think that even instills fear in people when it is the end for themselves or someone else. Especially with people being so seemingly ambiguous about following their uh, declared religion, not to a T, being one, following one religion, but still breaking a bunch of, the religious rules or whatever. I think they're to come face to face with that. Now it's more than being talked to at a sermon or reading some scripture or hearing something spoken over your dinner every day. I think now it's really that, again, that mortality, because a lot of the these Western religions, I think, operate on fear and on guilt and on this idea that there will be people who are condemned and not worthy. Will you be one of them? Um, uh, and I think that's why people keep silent about it in America too, is because we have like this unwritten rule that you don't talk politics, you don't talk money, and you don't talk religion. You know, that's the best way to keep everything civil and amicable and friendly. I remember hearing that when I was a little kid, living with my grandparents. They're like, yeah, you don't ask people how much their house is. You don't ask people what they think happens after you die, because you're going to get people that disagree. Um, so by keeping silent, though, the silence fuels the fear. It creates a bigger bandwidth of uncertainty, of unknown, of questions that are not just unanswered, but not even asked. You know what I'm saying? Our culture of having to go to work even if our world is falling apart, for not having enough paid time off to properly grieve and pick up the slack of the void that your wife left after she succumbed to her battle with cancer. You know, like there's so much that makes it hard to not be vocal. And then you could always factor in other things like, well, men are traditionally looked at like they're not supposed to be sad, or so that probably compounds on how complex grief can be, right? Um, there's also, I think, a desire to protect our loved ones and to protect our friends and not to be, you know, a Debbie Downer or Mr. Existentialism. We don't want to create this heaviness, and we don't want to be the bearer of bad news and bring everyone down to reality of like, hey, Johnny's dying. Hey, yeah, remember that party we went to and he jumped in the pool? Well, he jumped in head first in the shallow end and he went to the hospital and he's completely paralyzed and he got an infection and now he's dead. Yeah, I know it happened all in a weekend. It's insane. Like, you know, some people really have a hard time being that messenger or relaying that information. So I think there is a lot of reasons why people don't want to talk about death, whether it's a loved one or someone, you know, in their family. I think too, especially if you're no contact with a family member, to say like, hey, yeah, aunt whoever is dying, they'll be like, oh, I didn't know you had an aunt whoever, and it's like, oh yeah, well she tried to throw me off a bridge, so we like, you know, had her removed from the family, but like she reached out to me, like to open that, I think. And then you kind of have to deal with that. That's why kind of death is this great equalizer. It's a great catalyst to shadow work and to, you know, examining yourself and what you're made of and what you want and how you react and what's important to you. You know, death is a really profound transformative period. Um, but it can also be a very painful period. And I think, you know, people really want to protect themselves and protect others, even perhaps the person who is dying, right? And, you know, by shielding people, by not telling people, uh, by trying to protect these people or themselves, what is happening is it inadvertently is that, you know, this is fostering even more isolation and even more fear and even more instances of misunderstanding. I think it also can really lead to situations of unfulfilled last wishes, unsaid goodbyes, missed opportunities for reconnection, or, you know, coming to maybe not closure, but some kind of conclusion. Um, and by not talking to people, especially the person who is dying, You're hiding the reality. Like if you're hiding the reality of their terminal illness from them, and this is something that I've seen a couple of times when it is a child who is terminally ill, and the parents just can't bring themselves to tell the kid that. So they'll just say, "Oh, you're cured, yeah." And it's fucked up because the child will still feel sick. They'll feel worse, but their parents are telling them they'll be okay. So, now there's this stress because there's this incongruency between how they feel and what they're being told. So maybe now the kid even won't even vocalize when they are even feeling worse than that because they don't want to upset their parents. So it really can foster so much. I don't even want to say negativity because it's not negativity. It's coming from a place of love and protection. It's just, creating this miasma, this clouding fog is not helpful. It's not actually lessening anything. It's just blinding everyone. Um, and children can also have wills. They can also have things that, maybe there's certain clothes that they want to be buried in, or there's certain things they want to leave to people or say to people, or, piggy bank money that they want to put towards a charity. We can't be the reason that that is not a possibility that could be fulfilled to shelter ourselves. That's why it really, like I said, inadvertently fosters isolation, fear, and miscommunication, misunderstanding. And this can also cause significant harm to um, people who are, witnessing it to process their feelings, let alone the person who's actually dying. You know, Once upon a time, there was a really old couple, and the wife was dying, and nobody wanted to tell her. And they thought, she might not understand. And they also kind of believe that, yo, she'll get better. The doctors don't know what they're talking about. And you're stunting inevitable processes and you're turning it more complex because you're hiding things, you're denying things, and you're disowning things, these things being feelings and reality. um you're also taking away the ability for the person who is dying to consent to their own life, right? They can't make informed decisions about their life when they are being held at an arm's distance from the truth of their own life. Um, and we might be keeping them from, like I said, saying goodbyes, getting their wills in order, doing things that's on their bucket list. We have no idea. Or, even just saying like, hey, I want to be, cremated and scattered over the Brooklyn Bridge, or hey, I want, my organs to be donated. My husband will say that he doesn't want that, but I'm telling you, this is what I want. There's so much, right? Um, Keeping death or dying a secret, right, harms the patient and the caregiver. It it intensifies feelings of isolation, like we were talking about, as people navigate this profound experience, alone. Because, especially when you're caring for the person, it can be a very lonely process. There's not like, work doesn't stop for you. It can be very hard, so you're making it harder on yourself by keeping it to yourself. We're also, secrecy perpetuates unrealistic narratives about death and how to react or observe, making it harder for society to understand and confront the natural cycle of life. Sorry, I'm so blind. It doesn't help that I'm in the dark too. I can't deny. And take a minute, digest that. I'm gonna click over here. All right, looks like all systems are a go. Oh, excuse me. All right, perfect. We're still looking good. So, and on Mondays, as you guys might know, we do shadow work. So, with shadow work or any active process, we confront hidden and often uncomfortable aspects of ourselves, which can help dismantle these barriers, even if it's just for one person. You know, these barriers of that death is taboo, that we don't talk about it, that we don't have knowledge how to support people in a social setting when they're going through it, their own mortality or a loved one's mortality. And you know, the older we get, the more frequently we're going to be confronted with situations of mortality. Um, by acknowledging fears around death and dying, we can foster open conversation about mortality and ceremony, encouraging honest discussions with families and communities can help normalize the topic, empower individuals to face the reality of loss together. This alleviates the burden of secrecy, but also promotes healing, acceptance, and facilitates our grief journey and a deeper connection to the human experience. And then I put a little side note, a little asterisk, and I said, you know, it might even incite societal change if we all are more willing to just discuss it and be vulnerable about our questions or about, you know, our fears. You know, are you afraid about your parents dying? If you're close with your parents, do you think about what is going to happen when they get to that age and they need help? Where are they going to go? And a lot of people aren't prepared to answer that question, which is fine. You don't have to have all the answers right away, but you owe it to yourself to at least think about it and create a safe place where you can think about it. You know, if you have any questions or if you just want someone to bounce ideas off of or just talk with, I am here. Like I said, my name is Daniela and I had a rough fucking day. I want to take a shower and like really go at my neck with a massage gun, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna probably just sign off. If you're new here, at the start and end of the streams, I like to really try to ground myself with, you know, just feeling every breath, filling up my lungs, feeling all of my muscles, letting them not be tense, relaxing them, feeling gravity, feeling my feet on the ground, just feeling where I am presently, and then screaming into the void that this sucks. Okay, not that. And then just blowing out candles because I tend to hold my breath when I'm stressed, and I'm literally always fucking stressed. So, candles, fire needs air. Great visual metaphor for you need to breathe, bitch. So, I'm gonna put on some more nice little music, different from what I've usually played. I don't know if I'm feeling it, but I would love to see yous next week when we discuss self sorcery and shadow work on Monday. Alternatively, we'll discuss, death, dying, and bereavement again next Wednesday and probably have some shorts uploaded, between then. I'm going to just click around a little bit more. All right, no comments, that's fine. But I hope, by watching, you gain some insight into your own healing or grief journey. You're galvanized to honor your inner self and react authentically in the moment, especially when it comes to, your grief journey. If you're beginning it or anticipating it in the middle of it, or, thinking that you're well past it, whatever. I'm just glad you're here. Would love to see you again. All right, my friend, I'm going to put on some musics and try to fucking breathe and relax, but you know how that goes. All right, till next time. My computer, I hope, didn't just break. Let it cook. Let it cook. Oh my sweet fucking God.